and then share my screen. There you go. Okay, so welcome. Welcome to, and this is an introduction to social and emotional intelligence. This is like an appetizer, like a sample. This topic is so deep, and there's so much we can share about it. So I'm going to try my best to give you as much as possible within the hour. Now, a little bit about the Institute for Social and Emotional Intelligence. I was certified in this program back in 2013, which is what, 7 years ago, and I've done it for many, many people. But the Institute for Social and Emotional Intelligence is an international learning and research organization supporting life coaches and business coaches and HR professionals, as they bring social emotional intelligence into the workplace and beyond in life. The Institute provides certification. So if anybody is interested after you've heard this and you get on fire and you would like to be certified, I can hook you up with the right people to talk to. If you're in HR or you're in training and development, coach, this is a great tool to have. So, and based on the latest research, models of social and emotional intelligences and the ones in use by over 75% of Fortune 500 companies. And the social and emotional intelligence profile is being used by coaches around the globe. Almost every month, I see more and more people getting certified in this amazing tool. And I'm going to tell you people, this is not the only tool that I use or I'm certified in. I am certified in the Berkman method, long before social and emotional. I use the DISC method, and I'm a inside out certified coach, and I'm also certified in 5 or 6 of Franklin Covey's workshops that I teach. But this is my favorite because it's sort of all encompassing. It's my favorite. I do not believe in a one-size-fits-all approach, but we all have our favorites. This is my favorite. And some people are joining us, so forgive me for having to do that. So as we go along, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me and ask a question. Just remember to unmute yourself. Right now, I'll ask everybody to mute yourself so we don't hear any background noises. And remember, when you want to make a comment, you can just hold down your space bar and keep it down and speak. And when you finish, let it go if you want to do that. That's a simple way, okay? So, okay, go back here. So our objective for tonight, Reggie, thank you again for that wonderful introduction. We're going to talk about what is social and emotional intelligence. What is it? And then we're going to compare IQ, intelligent quotient, and social and emotional quotient. Whenever you see EQ, it means quotient because it can be measured. So, and then we will talk about the model, the 4-quadrant model, and the 26 distinct competencies. And I'll give you a little overview of each one of those competencies. We will also share how this has impacted businesses and helped businesses, and how it's used in organizations and business. And then a health and wellness case, how it impacts your personal health and wellness. And we will have some, some feedback. So, any questions at this point? All right. So that's our agenda. Why is this thing not? The first thing I like for you to do is to get a blank piece of paper, or if you have notes on your iPhone or whatever, and write down at the top, great ideas. Great ideas. Because you're going to hear tonight at least one idea that you will say, wow, that's a great idea. I need to do that. Or, I used to do that and I stopped doing it. I need to start back doing that. My goal is that you would get at least 3, 4, or 5 great ideas tonight. But have a great idea sheet. Because, the psychologists of learning will tell you there is a distinct connection between the brain and your handwriting. You have a tendency, or we all have a tendency, to remember what we write down more than what we type or just think about. So write down your great ideas. Your mind is like a parachute. It's not much good unless it's open. So I'm going to ask you tonight to have an open mind, to listen with an open mind. Can you do that? If you can do that, give me a thumbs up. Thank you. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. I mean, it's common sense. And so many people are so stuck in their ways, and they're not willing to try new things. And this might be new for you, and I hope that you're willing to listen and to try something different. What we get out of any activity is equal to what we put into it. Now, as Reggie told you in the introduction, I'm pretty good at what I do, and I've heard a lot of great feedback on what I do, but I am as good as my learners help me to be good. In that you have a role. You have an active role in the learning process. Listen, take notes, ask questions. Those are some of the things that great learners do. And this is a learning activity. So be active and participate. Can you promise to do that? Give me a thumbs up if you can promise that you can do that. Thank you. So social and emotional intelligence is a relatively recent, recently introduced to the rank and file to the public. It was before 1995. It was kind of secret in academia, and only the psychologists and the practitioners were using it until in 1995, Daniel Goleman wrote his blockbuster best-selling titled Emotional Intelligence. And then it was exposed, and look at how many books. And if you Google emotional intelligence, you're going to get thousands of responses, thousands. And then Time magazine in 1995, a lady by the name of Nancy Gibbs, she wrote an article right here, an article on emotional intelligence. I have that article. If you would like a copy of that article, please send me an email and I will send it to you. I don't like to dump stuff on people. So if you want a copy of that article, I think it will be a good reading and a good backup to what we're going to talk about tonight. I will send it to you. Okay? So, any questions? All right. So, which is more important in your mind, EQ or IQ? Anybody?
I think both.
Who is that who said both? Paige.
Yes.
Both.
Maybe I'm cheating.
Yeah. They come together. One without the other is like chaos. One without the other is like chaos. So what we learn that EQ plus IQ equals success. When we balance our IQ and our EQ, we have success. And we will share with, there are some people who appear as if they have no EQ. No EQ. So the thing, what about, why is this? Come on, yeah. What about when we have IQ but no EQ? What do you think happens? Anybody except Paige. She knows. What happens when you have people who are just focused on their IQ but no EQ? What do you think happens? Anybody?
Train wreck.
Train wreck. Thank you, Reggie. It's a train wreck. People, it's crazy. And you have chaos. I'm here to tell you, I'm not a gambling man, but I believe 80 to 90% of the people who leave their home to go and protest on the streets, they don't go to riot. What happens is they go there and they get caught up in the emotions, what's going on, and before you know it, they monkey see, monkey do. And then they come home and say, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. How many times have you reacted without thinking about it, and then you regret it? Oh my, I'm sorry, I can't believe I said that. And it happens to all of us because, we are humans. We are humans. But the people who have learned to manage and to find that sweet spot between your IQ and your EQ, and you're going to see the benefits for those people. Out of control emotions make smart people stupid. And I'm guessing as you look at these screens, you know people like this. If you know people like this, give me a thumbs up. Yeah, you worked with them. Some of you might be even living with one of them right now. Thank you. Yeah, out of control emotions make smart people stupid. Then you have in the offices, the bully and the tyrant is no longer limited to the playground. They've come into our world, into our offices, and some of you have worked with them. How many of you just love to work with the micromanager? And some people who, they always seem to be angry and hostile. And then there's the emotionally immature guy or girl. And these people, and I'm sure as you're looking at these pictures and these words, you're thinking about people come to mind who you know and who you work with. I'm not going to, don't call any names, okay? Okay, no names. So the impact on employees. They say, employees, unfortunately, they are checking in and checking out, most of them. Just going through the motions. We have a saying, you're like road warriors, retired on active duty. No inspiration, no encouragement, no motivation. And then they look at what happens. Stress. Only today, I got an article that says stress is a chronic sickness. It triggers chronic illness in our bodies, stress. And we all know that. And you have the people just playing around, fooling around. You have, and then you have the employee who quits and the boss, what happened? He was a great employee or she was a great employee. Why did they quit? And people don't leave companies. Well, who do they leave? Who do they leave? Anybody?
Bosses.
Bosses. They leave their bosses, and then it impacts the bottom line. If people are not producing what they are paid to produce, well, you're going to have more expenses than revenue, and you have an impact on the bottom line. And this program, Emotional Intelligence, impacts the bottom line, not only feelings, but tangible benefits. Then you have a survey of 1,000 American workers back in 2012. And this is what the results were. People, 65% would choose a new boss over a pay raise. 65% responded they would choose a new boss over a pay raise. You can't pay people to be happy. We can't pay people to be happy. You know, 60% said they would do a better job if they had a better relationship with their boss. And I can testify to that. 60%. You know, and 47% say their boss does not stay calm and in control. Unfortunately, some people, they think that to be shouting and screaming at people is how they get things done. They might get something done, but not the most out of their people. And then 31% feel uninspired and unappreciated by their boss. You know, I've been fortunate to be exposed to many cultures internationally. And I'm here to tell you, appreciation is a common need of all people. No matter where your culture is, what your nationality, what your income, what your society status, what state you're from, appreciation is a great motivator. You want people to do more? Show them appreciation. You want them to have less stress? Appreciate them. And I learned a long time ago that appreciation and recognition should be served like champagne while it's still bubbling. Catch people in the moment. Then 20% say their boss has little or no integrity. Oh my God. Little or no integrity. And we'll talk more about that later. Integrity is a key component of self-management. 73% of those in their 20s and 30s said their health is at stake due to a bully boss. Their health, and you know, there are cases where people have sued their companies for too much stress. And then the current situation is costing $360 billion a year in lost revenue. Is that a lot of money? Is that a lot of money? And it goes right back to social and emotional intelligence. A USA Today snapshot in 2009 says, what makes good employees quit? I mean, we are happy when bad employees quit. We can't wait for them to quit, right? Sometimes we might have to fire them. But what makes good employees quit? We found out that the top reasons were unhappiness with management, 35%. Limited opportunities for advancement, 33%. Lack of recognition, 13%. And inadequate salary and benefits, 13%. Being bored, 1%, thank God. Being bored, just 1%. But look at the highest percentage, unhappiness with management. And you know, think about it, people spend most of their waking hours where? Where do those people who are still working, some of us are retired, but people who are still in the workforce, where do they spend most of their waking hours? At work, even if it's virtual, because your mind is on the job and you're in front of a computer. So whether most of our stress comes from where we engage, where we are, where we are located. So we've got to be aware of that. And that's Robert Half International. Thank God there's a solution. There's a key, or at least a help. Social and emotional intelligence is proven. It starts with an assessment for self-awareness. And then we introduce training programs on social and emotional intelligence. And then individual development coaching. You know, as a learner and a facilitator of learning, when you do one-on-one coaching, it's so much more effective than group. Would you agree with that? One-on-one is so much more effective than group. A group has its effectiveness, don't get me wrong, but one-on-one. And then introducing the concept into the culture. What's the culture of your organization? My friend Reggie works for Chick-fil-A. And those of you who've been exposed to Chick-fil-A will have experienced that culture. Well, that just didn't happen. That's a trained culture. A culture in any organization will evolve on its own if left alone. You want to have a positive culture in your organization, you got to train it, you got to lead it, you got to organize it. It just doesn't happen by chance. So social emotional intelligence is not just about feeling, it's also about personal power. And when we talk about personal power, we talk about self-confidence and confidence in the ability to get things done. We're talking about integrity, building bonds and building trust. Think about a race car driver, a NASCAR driver. He comes into the pit. Does he get out of the car? No, he trusts everybody to do their job. And he's gone again in seconds. Trust has to be built in anywhere you go. And everybody will tell you trust is a key ingredient for any great relationship. So the business of developing leaders, this is Warren Bennis. Hey, Margaret, will you read that for me? Margaret West.
Sure. Emotional intelligence is much more powerful than IQ in determining who emerges as a leader. IQ is a threshold competence. You need it, but it doesn't make you a star. Emotional intelligence can.
Too much IQ and not enough EQ will not make you a star. Emotional intelligence combined with the IQ would make you a star. By the way, how many of you would say you are, let me go here. How many of you would say you are an introvert or have been accused of being an introvert? Raise your hand. Give me a thumb. So we don't have any introverts in the room. All right. How about extrovert? How many of you have been told or in your heart you feel you're an extrovert? Thank you, Paige. Anybody else? Extrovert? Yeah. Well, you know, I've been accused of being an extrovert in the past. And those of you who know me well will maybe agree with that. I learned a new term recently. And the term is ambivert. A-M-B-I-V-E-R-T. Ambivert. And if you want to know how to become an ambivert, I have an article that I can send to you, but you got to ask me for it. Send me an email and I will email you that article. Are you an ambivert? It's cool. You know, again, it's that sweet spot. Think about any sports you play. I mean, anybody play tennis? Tennis? Anybody? And you hit that ball in that sweet spot. How about cricket? Okay, we have a lot of people from the Caribbean. Or bat and ball. Cricket, golf, any sport like that. When you hit it in that sweet spot, you know, it's amazing. The ball goes further. You don't even feel it. That's the ambivert. The sweet spot between extrovert and introvert. Okay? So if you need that article, you like to get that article, send me an email after we're done and I'll send it to you. So that's 2 articles we're talking about. Anybody remember what was the first one? Anybody remember what? Yes, Paige? Mute yourself.
It was the article on time. That was written
Yeah,
about
the Time
EQ.
magazine about EQ. Very good. So that's, and this one is, are you an ambivert? Well, you can just say, send me the ambivert article, okay? And I'll send it to you. Okay, so let's move on. Oh, let me go back
Lincoln,
here.
before you
Yeah.
move on,
Yes.
are we going to expand on, are you going to expand on that statement?
Which
Because there are a
one?
couple of things there. The one by Mr. Bennis, I think,
Uh-huh.
the previous slide.
Yes.
Because I need to be clear in terms of what he is saying. So if you're going to talk about it later, that's fine.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about emotional
Okay.
intelligence later.
All right, okay. That's
And what it really means. Yeah.
right.
In fact, my next slide is a definition of emotional intelligence.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. There you go. How about you reading that for me, Margaret? Since you're on the screen there.
Okay, what is S and EI? What is S?
Social and emotional intelligence.
The working definition says by Dr. Laura A. Belston, PhD, social and emotional intelligence is the ability to be aware of our own emotions and those of others in the moment, and to use that information to manage ourselves and manage our relationships.
And I intentionally put in the moment in all caps and underline it. That's the key. Once a moment comes and it's gone, you can't get it back. How many times have you had an opportunity and you said, man, I wish I had said so-and-so, or I wish I had taken that opportunity, but it's too late, it's gone. People who have learned to manage their emotions know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, and get the most out of it. And Dr. Laura Belson is the designer, the developer of this program. I was very fortunate and blessed to be coached and trained and certified by Dr. Laura herself. So that was really good. Any questions? All right. So.
I have one question, Lincoln.
Yes.
So are we saying that when you are faced with a situation, any situation, the natural response is to hit back in the same tone and fervor as you are presented? Because it happens sometimes. Somebody says something to you and you really want to be able to, oh gosh, the dogs, and you really want to be able to hit back at them in the same manner.
Uh-huh.
Are we saying that the emotional intelligence is that you pause and do not respond immediately because you may say something that you didn't really plan to say? Am I along those lines?
You're on the right track, and you will see in a couple of minutes when we talk about, we'll be getting there, but you're on the right track. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
This diagram represents an average normal human being. We all have genetics, you know, and we are born with genetics. Like how many times somebody have told you, you're just like your father, or you're just like your mother. You know, we are born with genetics. That cannot be changed. That's not something you develop. You know, you have it. In fact, they tell me I'm just like my grandfather. I didn't even see him. He was dead before I was born. But they tell me I walk like him. You know, I see two of my sons, they have some behaviors that is like what I do and what my mother used to do. Genetics. We all have genetics. And that's the red circle. In the green circle, personality. We all have a distinct personality. You know, and the psychologists will tell you our personality is developed from age 0 to about 7, where our values, our core values and our morals are developed. And those of us who have children, more than one child, isn't it amazing? Or maybe we have siblings, how we all come from the same womb, grew up in the same community, went to the same schools, but we're so different. Different personality. That's what makes the human being so unique. And then, yes, Elton, you have a question? I see your hand up. Elton?
Yes, yes, good night.
Good night, Elton.
I was wondering which of the three is most important, or are those three equally important? Genetics, personality, and behavior.
Well,
Or can we use one to mold the other?
definitely. Because you cannot see genetics. You cannot see or identify personality until you see how people behave. People see our behavior. That's what they see. But it comes from our genetic, our personality, and the environment. You know, and also our personality and environment will impact our behavior. For example, people from, you know, I grew up in the Caribbean, I grew up in Trinidad. We are known to be very friendly people. Everybody wave at one another and very friendly people. My first experience in the United States, I could not believe it when it took me a little while. I'm in an elevator and 2 or 3 other people are right there and they don't even say a word. And all they're doing is they're looking at the numbers. And then the first 10 years I lived in Miami, Florida, and that place is like a melting pot with like 30 or 40 different cultures existing in one place. People are busy, and you know, they had a unwritten rule that if you had a traffic light and you get the green, you got to wait for 3 cars to run the red light before you go. So if you ever go to visit Miami, be careful how you drive there. And then I moved to Texas, to Houston. Oh my God, what a difference. What a difference. The people were so friendly, they were waving at you, you know, neighbors. My neighbor even used to cut my lawn for me. So, you know, environment, culture, people who were raised in the country, they behave different from people raised in the city. You've heard about a New York minute? So where we grew up, our culture, our behavior is impacted by our environment and where we grew up. Would you agree with that, people? You all grew up somewhere. And
Yes, yes.
so, and again, behavior. Behavior is the key because that's what people see. You know, there was a Calypsonian many, many years ago named Valentino, and he sang a song, "Life is a stage, and everybody have a role to portray." You know, we are all on stage. People are looking at us. They don't know our genetics. They don't know our personality, but they judge us based on our behavior. So is it important for us to learn to manage our behavior? Yes or no?
Yes, very much.
Very much, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So the concept of intelligence has evolved over the past 100 years. You know, IQ was the focus in the 1900s, and in some places it's still the focus. And then in 1983, the multiple intelligences were introduced. It was not until 1990 that EQ, or emotional intelligence, was introduced. And recently, as 2006, social and emotional intelligence. Social was added to the emotional intelligence. So that, just to give you a little background here. And then Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. Due to time, I can't give you explain every one of these. I'll give you a quick little précis explanation. But if you want the definitions, this is the third thing I'm promising you. Just send me an email and I will send it to you. Just say, send me the multiple intelligences article. Okay, you got it?
Yep.
All right. So verbal and linguistic. You know, some people, they just know what to say at the right time and how to say it. And it's like they got a gift of speech. And then there are some people, they're good at logic and maths. Like my sister, she's not too good at maths. And I can say that she's with us tonight. She knows that. She will tell you, she will admit it. And then there is the visual and the spatial. This is the ability to present the space world internally in your mind to receive it. And musical. Now, when you think about musical intelligence is not limited to the ability to sing or to play an instrument. It has to do with rhythm. It has to do with rhythm. You know, and I play sports, and when you get into a rhythm, it's like you can do no wrong. And everything just flows. It's musical, rhythm. And then not bodily, kinesthetic, you know, nonverbal. You know, they say that 70% of communication is nonverbal. 70% of communication is nonverbal. Interpersonal, being that skill, that intelligence to be able to interact with other people. And intrapersonal is to know your own self. And we talk more about that later. And you have the naturalistic, you know, people who are into nature and appreciating nature to understand the natural world around. We have learned so much from nature, and we're still learning from nature. And then you have, I have a hard time pronouncing this word, existentialistic. These, these are the people, you know, the deep thinkers. Thank you, Paige. These are the deep thinkers, the philosophers, you know, who always querying the reason for existence, why we exist, and what's our purpose. So again, if you want to get the definition of these intelligences, you can either Google Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence or send me an email and I'll send it to you, okay? So now we come to the question that Margaret was asking. This is social and emotional intelligence 4-quadrant model. This is what we teach. If you notice at the top, self, and then other social awareness and management. So this program is based on self-awareness, and we're saying that people who are self-aware, they do a better job of self-management. And people who are aware of the people around them do a better job of relationship management. Self-management just doesn't happen. Great relationships just don't happen. So what does all this mean is the next question. What does all this mean? Well, self-awareness has to do with emotional self-awareness. This is people who are aware of their triggers. They know what makes them happy. They know what makes them sad. You know, have you ever been in a situation and you just don't feel comfortable? But you respond to it, you say, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. And that happened to me many times. I remember once when I used to travel a lot, you know, it was nighttime, I had to rent a car, I made a wrong turn. And I got into this neighborhood. And have you ever felt fear in an environment? Well, I made a U-turn so quick. You know, I made a U-turn so quick because my emotions was telling me, this is dangerous. Move. Some people they're not aware, they ignore it and they end up in trouble. And then you have accurate self-assessment. This is when you're taking the guesswork out of it. You're taking you know for sure, these are my triggers. This is what make me happy. This is what make me sad. This is what causes anxiety. So accurate self-assessment, and then personal power. Personal power has to do with the ability, that self-confidence. Know what's your limits, what you're good at, and what you're not good at. So you go to the things that you're good at. You're not going to ignore the things you're not so good at, but you go to your strengths, personal power. Any questions?
Is anything wrong with that?
No.
Okay. Just checking. I mean, on your accurate self, if you tend to go with most things that you know you're good at, and don't try to jump into those that you don't know or not comfortable with, should it be something that you should explore to be a better person?
Good question. This is the tool, and when we when we do your assessment and we sit down with you one-on-one, and then the coaching comes into play. And then we can point out and help you to, maybe you didn't score such a high score on accurate self-assessment. You know, there are some people who fool themselves. And some people think they're more powerful than they are. And as a result of that, they make mistakes. Good question, Joanne. So self-awareness leads to self-management. Some psychologists did an experiment. They call it the Marshmallow Project. They took some 4-year-olds. Now think about it. I know some of us might have to go a long way back to when we were 4 years old, including myself. But they took some 4-year-old children and they gave each one of them a marshmallow on a dish. And then they told the kids, we're going to leave the room for 15 minutes. And those of you who wait and do not eat the marshmallow, when we come back, we will give you another one. So if you wait, you're going to end up with 2. If you eat your marshmallow before we come back, that's it, you're not going to get any. Well, they left the kids. Now look at this kid, you know, smelling. This one closed his eyes. You know, the kids, 4-year-old, what you think happened? Most of them ate the marshmallow. Well, the psychologists, what they did is they tracked these kids for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. And when they found out that those who waited, their SAT scores were 200 points higher than those who did not wait. When they went to college, they did so much better than those who did not wait. Also, they're making 33% more revenue and money than those who did not wait. Self-management. And it's a skill. So there are 10 components that make up self-management. The first is behavioral self-control. Have you ever seen somebody who just appeared to be out of control? How many of you have told somebody, hey, control yourself? You know, behavioral self-control. Then we have integrity. You know, I've never met a human being who said to me, Lincoln, I don't have any integrity. I've met a lot of people who profess to have integrity, but they need to go back and learn what integrity really means. But integrity is a key ingredient, component of self-management. Innovation and creativity. Some people, they're so stuck in their ways. They're not looking for new ways to do things. And we're living in this world where there's so much, you know, this COVID-19 lockdown thing has created a lot of opportunity for innovation and creativity. I see my 6-7-year-old grandson on digital school and he's having a ball. You see him dancing today in front of the screen. You know, innovation, the teachers have to learn new skills to be more creative, to make it interesting. Innovation and creativity instead of just giving up. And then initiative and bias for action. You don't have to be told. You see something that needs to be done, you do it. On achievement drive, too many people are settling for okay. People who have an achievement drive, they go for excellence. Realistic optimism. It's okay to be optimistic, but you got to be realistic about it. Resilience, don't give up. Do not give up. Be resilient. Look, we find what we look for. If we look for a way to get something done, we will find it. Stress management. You know, as I was sharing, I think earlier today, I got an article in my inbox and they were saying that stress accounts for 6 chronic illness. Heart, diabetes, all these things go up when you're under stress. But it can be managed. But without the awareness, you just let it go. And then personal agility. Personal agility has to do with being agile in observing change and changing with the change, or even creating change. And the 10th is intentionality. Being intentional about self-management. Be intentional of managing your behavior so that you can be the best you that you are designed to be. Be intentional. You know, there are a lot of people who believe, well, it is what it is. Have you heard that? Have you heard people say that? It is what it is? No, it is what we make it to be. That's one of the biggest difference between a human and an animal. It is what we make it to be. We got to be intentional about it, and we got to be aware about it. Then others are social awareness. You know, the Aaron Feinstein wrote this big best-selling book, 100 Best Corporate Citizens. And other and social emotional intelligence, other awareness has to do with empathy. Do I need to tell you what empathy is? We all know what empathy is, right? It's, you know, walking in somebody's shoes.
Yes.
You know, feeling for them. Then situational organizational awareness. This means knowing who are the people around you who can get things done. Who are the organizers? Who are the go-getters? Who are the power people in your organization? So you can, that's what that awareness is all about. And then service orientation, having a heart for service. I am a lifetime member of JC's International, and one of the tenets of the creed is service to humanity is the best work of life. You have to have a heart for service to go serve. And once you develop that, it never leaves you. You're always looking for opportunity to serve. It's an orientation. You're always looking for opportunity to serve. You know, just to share with you, in my neighborhood, you know, the numbers on my mailbox, they were faded. So I went to the hardware store and I bought me a little can of, you know, gold brass paint, and I painted it. But then when I finished mine, I said, wait a minute, I still have a lot of paint. I said, let me paint my neighbors. And I painted about 10, 20 numbers, and everybody, it looked so bright. And I think I got more out of that experience than anybody else. Because the neighborhood is looking so bright. It's amazing when you serve people, you tend to get so much more out of it. Try it if you haven't tried it before. So that's self-awareness, self-management, other awareness, or social management awareness. And now we come to relationship management. This is the key right here. Self-awareness leads to self-management. Other awareness leads to better relationship management. Great relationships needs management. It don't just happen. Too many people are just existing in relationships. To make it better, it needs management. And here are some of the, well, here are the 10 components that make up relationship management. And look at what the first one, communication. You know what they say, when you assume what happens? You know, there are people who profess to be mind readers, but that's a myth. They can't read your mind. So sometimes you need to share, communicate, ask questions, clarify. You know, interpersonal effectiveness, being able to interact with other people. You know, sometimes you go to a get together and there are some people, they find a little corner and they put themselves in that corner and it's like they don't know how to talk. It's a skill that can be developed. Powerful influencing skills, being able to influence people to do the right thing. Conflict management. This is a skill, people. You know, unfortunately in our school system, they don't teach us these things, but in the Japanese school system, they teach the kids how to manage conflict. They call it their conflict resolution pillow. And they show the kids a pillow and they say, on the top left-hand corner, you're saying you're right. On the right, top right-hand corner, The other person is saying they're right. So two people say, I'm right and you, no, you're wrong. And on the bottom corner, it says we are both right. And on the bottom right-hand corner, we are both wrong. And then in the middle, it says, it doesn't matter who is right or wrong. Let's find out what's the best solution. And I wish our people in all walks of life would adopt that approach. It's not a matter of right and wrong or black and white, but let's come up with the best solution. And when we approach any situation like that, we always come up with the best solution. Would you agree with that? Yes or no? Okay, the next is inspirational leadership. How many of you work with a leader who just inspires you? And you'd end up doing so much more than what you're getting paid for. Or even, it doesn't even have to be a job description, but this leader is so inspiring. Anybody can share an experience like that, or a person? Hey, Reggie. Reggie, are you still there? Reggie.
I am.
Tell us about Chip Perry.
Inspirational.
Was he an inspirational leader?
Inspirational, light up a room, and you felt like when you're in his presence, you were the only one there.
Amen. Amen. That's, Reggie and I work for this guy. His name is Chip Perry. And you nailed it, Reggie. Talk about getting people to do more, go the extra mile. Go the extra mile because he inspired you. He didn't demand, but he inspired you. He knew everybody by name. He knew and when he only had to meet you one time. You know your name, and he would, every time he would call you by name. And this is a big company. It's not a little company. Thousands of people work for this guy. Catalyzing change. We all, it's not debatable. We are living in a changing world. Change is happening all the time. Unfortunately, there are quite a few people who cannot accept change. But people have learned to manage relationship. They learn to catalyze on the change, stimulate the change, adapt to the change, embrace the change. Last year, January, I got an opportunity to do a keynote at UPS. And the topic that they proposed to me was coping with change. That's the topic they asked me to speak about. So I asked the EVP of HR, I said, do you mind if I adjust that topic a little bit? She said, well, what do you want to do? I said, the word coping is kind of weak and defeatist. How about if we change the topic to capitalizing on change? And we can share with the people how they can embrace change, how they can take advantage, how they can make the most of the change. Because if we say coping, nothing is going to happen. And you know what? She agreed and we had a great time. So catalyzing on change. Building bonds. It takes effort and intention to build bonds. And look at, again, there are people here who we have known each other for 15, 20, 30 years. And we have developed a bond, haven't we? And time will go, but when we get together, it's like no time passed. That's a bond. That's a bond. But it takes intentional to build that bond. Teamwork and collaboration. Everybody will agree that teamwork and collaboration results in great success. Great success. In the sporting world, we've seen teams that were made up of high-performing individuals, but they did not perform as a team, lose the average performers who are performing as a team. Teamwork and collaboration. Again, it takes organization, it takes coaching, it takes leadership to get people to learn to operate and work as a team. Coaching and mentoring others. You do not have to have a title, a leader, to be a coach or a mentor. In fact, they have proven right now that side-by-side coaching and mentoring is very much more effective than top-down, side-by-side. Co-workers, coaching one another, mentoring one another in the moment. Building trust. I mean, who will debate that trust is one of the key ingredients to any relationship? Now, the thing about relationships is we have a variety of relationships. Those of us who are married, we have a long-term lifetime relationship. We have work relationship. We have church member relationship. We have neighbor relationship. You know, we go to the supermarket, for that 2 or 3 minutes we're in front of the cashier, we have a relationship with that cashier. We have opportunity to build relationship, to communicate, to interact, you know, to influence. And all of these things, and every day, so many. But some of us just ignoring these opportunities to build relationships. You know, and that's why our world, there's so much conflict going on, so much tension, so much rioting, you know, all kind of discrimination taking place because people are not aware and they're not using these skills to build relationships. Then the business case. So that's the personal, well, your individual, a business case. There is hard evidence, you know, and that word soft skills are better than people skills count. People skills count. Emotional intelligence skills count. So these are some companies that have bought into social and emotional intelligence and are using social and emotional intelligence as a tool within their organization to build strong cultures, to get their people to stop working and start performing, you know, and to look forward to going to work, to team work with one another. I feel sorry for people who will tell me, you know, Lincoln, I don't have any friends at work. But you spend most of your waking hours at work and you don't have a friend at work. Suppose you faint on the job. Well, who's going to take you up? Who's going to take care of you? Unfortunately, there are a couple of people like that. But social emotional intelligence training and assessment are embraced by all these big companies. Yeah. In fact, Susan Johnson, who introduced me at the lunchtime, she worked for American Express. And she was sharing how they use social and emotional intelligence. So here's an example. Sheraton Hotels, there are 900 hotels in 90 countries with over 150,000 associates. They introduced social and emotional intelligence training and coaching to their company. And their goal was to build a service culture. Well, the result was they increased market share by 24%. They increased, people cannot do what they're not trained to do. They cannot do what they're not trained to do. We need to train them and coach them. Then Pepsi, everybody know Pepsi, right? At PepsiCo, social and emotional intelligence program generated 10% increase in productivity. This is a multi-billion company worldwide, 87% decrease in turnover. Those of you who are in HR know that it costs money to replace an employee. It costs money. And then consistency. And over 1,000% return on investment. Over 1,000% return on investment. What an investment. So some top reasons for executive derailment. Unfortunately, this exists. Poor interpersonal relationships. Single most common factor, they're too harshly critical. Sometimes when you get tired of people telling you what you're not doing right and ignoring what the good things you're doing, the positive things you're doing, unfortunately, people tend to find the wrong thing that people do and they don't look for the good things that people do, unless they emotional intelligence, you know, trained. Insensitive or demanding and alienating co-workers and direct reports. Rigid. I had a friend who owned a printing factory, and he had a sign on his desk, my way or the highway. My way or the highway. They don't seek feedback. So they don't know what's going on behind closed doors. They don't listen. I mean, here is my 10 seconds effective listening seminar. Look how the Lord designed us. 2 ears, 1 mouth, which is a subtle indication that we should listen twice as much as we speak. Unfortunately, people tend to talk more than they listen. And then the inability to work with the team, disrespect, uncooperative, not sharing information, and taking credit for other people's work. Unfortunately, this exists, and that's why we have so much stress in the workplace. Yes, Elton? I see your hand up. Yes.
Yes, I wanted to ask about the direct reports. Could you elaborate, like explain a little bit more on exactly what we're talking about when you refer to direct reports?
Well, in any organization, if you're a manager or a leader, you have people who report to you directly.
Yes.
That's your direct report. Somebody who you're responsible for, who in your department, if you're the head of a department, they work right under you.
Yes.
And you're the next person in the corporate structure.
Yes, so just give us a scenario of the alienation of a co-worker with a direct report.
I'll share with you a truth.
Does it mean how we react to somebody reporting to us when they give us an unsavory report?
Yeah. Some people can't deal with the truth.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, they don't seek feedback. Then the health and wellness case. This is where it comes personally to you and me now. People with positive emotions get fewer colds and illnesses. This is proven. Have fewer symptoms and suffer less pain when they do fall ill. Have lower risk of chronic disease. Remember we talked about stress earlier, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, immune disorders, and live longer. When you learn to manage your emotions, hit the pause button. You know, when you get angry at somebody, you're hurting yourself more than you're hurting that person. Your heart rate goes up so much higher than normal. You know, like, I don't know what's your pet peeve, but for me, when I'm driving, people who like cut me off on the road, I used to get really mad at those people. Or even people, you know, I'm on the main road and they coming through on the side road and they want to come in and I let them in and they don't wave. I used to scream at those people and say, well, your mother didn't teach you how to say thank you. Until I did this program, I said, well, you need to calm down because that person is gone. They'll never see them again. So now I wave. I've learned to hit the pause button and stop reacting and do more recalculating. That's one of my new mantras. Less reacting, more recalculating. Hit the pause button. I've learned to do that. Then some other studies show that people with positive emotions, they earn more over the course of their lifetime, about 33% more. People with positive emotions have more satisfying relationships and enjoy more satisfying social networks, which is a key factor in longevity. You know, they did an experiment with newborn babies when they first were born in the hospital, and they have a control group and an uncontrolled group. The control group, they had people lift the babies up and hold them and rock them with their arms, and the uncontrolled, they just, you know, leave them and just feed them when they need to be fed. And they tracked these people and they found the people who were, the babies who were touched and lifted and hugged had better lives and less stress in their lives and less anger and were more positive in their life. That human touch, that human interaction is so healthy. It's healthy. That human interaction is healthy. So that's why we have best friends. And that's why people get married and they won't have a long-term relationship. The need that we need is a basic need, that human interaction is really helpful and healthy for us. Other personal benefits: improved performance and achievement, more creativity and innovative problem solving, better decision making, more flexible thought process, and even improved memory. And all this is proven. So social and emotional intelligence, these 26 competencies that we talked about earlier are measurable and learnable. They're measurable and learnable. Best learned through coaching and training. Ideal when integrated into the organizational culture. You know, I've done this program for many organizations and for at least close to 100 people. I've even done it for couples, and it's amazing. The most interesting group I did was a group of attorneys. And you know how attorneys could be so skeptical? I was pleasant, because I myself was kind of hesitant, but they asked me to do it, but they were so receptive and open-minded. And you could see their faces started glowing. And it was so cool to see that. And their feedback was really, really encouraging. It's a core skill. This is a skill, people, that can be learned. And it's grounded in science. It's grounded in science. And then proven ROI, whether it's your personal or corporate, proven ROI. But it starts with this awareness and assessment. Starts with that assessment. So it's a collection of skills, being aware of what's going on within us and in the moment, being aware of what might be going on within others and responding with care and consideration, managing ourselves in the moment and managing our relationship with others in the moment. So, do you have a personal development plan? Do you have a growth plan? Because you know, any living organism that stops growing begins to finish that statement for me. Any living organism begin to die. So if we're not growing, we're dying. You know, Kaizen is the Japanese word for continuous improvement. Too many of us are dependent on other people to develop us when we should learn to take ownership of our own development. Well, based on what you've heard tonight, if you would like to have your social and emotional intelligence profile done for you and at least 1 hour of my coaching time with you, just send me an email at the end or tomorrow or whenever. Don't forget, because I have a real sweet deal to offer you people. A very, very high discounted pricing to offer you. So think about that. Now, everybody know Albert Einstein, right? Hey, Tara, would you read that for us?
We should take care not to make the intellect our God. It has, of course, powerful muscles, but no personality. It cannot lead. It can only serve.
People, this is Albert Einstein, who maybe have had one of the highest IQs ever. And he's telling us, don't neglect our EQ, our emotional quotient, our emotional intelligence. Without emotional intelligence, we cannot lead. We can only be self-serving. Any questions? Let me go here. I'm going to stop sharing here. Okay. Any questions, thoughts, feedback?
Yes, Lincoln. I was trying to throw my mind back within my last working environment, I had a boss who, I mean, in those days we didn't call it this, but now I'm looking at it based on some of the qualities that you have brought forward, and it seems as if he just had what it took, you know, to deal with the persons under his charge. Because I remember, I'll just give you a little story. I would always, you know, if I fell out with a colleague, because we would report directly to him. So